If you would like to go on a sailing vacation, have only 1 week, want to venture a bit further from the coast without whole days sailing, without huge money amount, you've probably found the right video. Even though we won't just go to the nearest island, we won't spend an excessive amount of time sailing, as we have 2 crew members on board who are sailing for the first time. We didn't know in advance how they would adapt to spending a week of vacation on a boat. In this video, I'll present an option where we'll visit 2 more distant islands, Lastovo and Vis. We'll try to visit as many interesting points as possible, explore as many new bays as we can, catch some fish, and stay within budget. I also highlight 2 significant advantages of sailing and renting boats in other countries, comparing with Croatia, which is why I'm always keeping one eye on the other countries, especially Greece. All this and more is coming up in today's video. We also look at the logistics, how to get there, where and how to rent a boat, how to handle food, what to bring with you, and what you can leave at home. Since there are quite a few 1-week sailing options, I might try to present some more in the future. I might advise you to subscribe to my channel, but you'll decide for yourself if you're interested. When and where? Just like at the end of October last year, we chose Trogir as our starting point. Trogir is an interesting town with a lot of history and a picturesque and lively old town center. The trip was scheduled around 1st of May, partly because of the holidays and also because the rental prices for boats are still quite reasonable in the pre-season. Trogir is located in close proximity to Split, and the airport is just a stone throw away, making it an ideal starting point for those coming from more distant places. The weather at this time can be quite pleasant, but still offers interesting conditions that can spice up the sailing experience. Occasionally, it can make the journey a bit faster and add some adrenaline. It can also force sailors to seek shelter in safe harbors, which we experienced ourselves. Where and how to rent a boat? If you don't spend at least 10 weeks a year on a sailboat, renting is always a more cost-effective option than owning one. There are many options for renting a boat. One is to contact charter companies directly, another is to find a boat through online yacht booking services. For the last 2 rentals, I used the website Boat-Around. This is not an advertisement, I'm not paid by them in any way, but I was satisfied with their service and I chose them again this time. I reserved the boat in March and got a reasonably good deal, as boat rental prices usually drop a month or 2 before the rental period. If it's outside the peak season, this is definitely an option, as there will be plenty of boats available. However, if you are looking for a boat during the peak season, you might not find the most suitable boat in these last-minute deals. I'll explain how much we paid for the rental and all other costs later on this video. Check the cost section on the end. What about the skipper? You can always hire a skipper, but keep in mind extra costs around 200 euros per day for the skipper, plus food and additional bed or cabin. However, since I'm an enthusiastic sailor myself, I'm also a skipper with all the necessary and optional licenses. And have over 30 weeks of sailing experience as a skipper. Naturally, we don't hire a skipper. We manage the boat ourselves. My son, who has accompanied me on almost all my sails in the last 10 years, is already a very experienced sailor and very helpful companion. In reality, I'm confident that he would be fully capable of managing the boat himself. He just needs to pass a few more exams. How to take over the boat? What to pay attention to? On the day of the handover, you report to the office of the charter company where you rented the boat. They will tell you where they are located if you haven't been informed already. It's also smart to submit the crew list in advance, usually online, which speeds up the handover process. In the office, you handle the paperwork, contract, payment of additional costs, cleaning, outboard motor, rental for dinghy, tourist tax, etc., and the deposit, which is usually the amount of the insurance deductible. The larger and more expensive the boat, the higher is this amount. For Elan 45 2016 model, it was 2,000 euros. You get this back if you return the boat in the same condition as you receive it. Then you head to the dock where the boat is located. A company representative shows you around the boat, explains all its quirks, and usually reviews everything with a checklist that you sign upon receipt. Pay particular attention to the toilets to ensure they work properly. Taste the water in the bilge. If it's salty, the boat is leaking, and you should note this on the handover sheet to avoid being blamed later. This company also gave us 24-hour period to report any issues we found on the boat, so we had some form of guarantee that everything was okay. And indeed, it was. The next step is to transfer everything from your cars to the boat. This part is for me personally always stressful and tiring. Food and drink. If you come with car, you probably already done your shopping, or you can go to a nearby store while waiting to take over the boat. In Trogir, there is a well-stocked Consum, about 15 minutes on foot, and even closer if you take the dinghy. Of course, it's easiest to do it by car. If you arrived by plane, you might use a taxi for this. What to buy? How much to bring? This is always a challenge. People tend to buy too much. So, first piece of advice is to buy at least 20% less than you initially planned. Breakfast, snacks and nibbles are essential. Toasts, spreads, some savory snacks, eggs, cured meats, cheeses, nuts, sweet snacks like long-lasting cookies, chocolate and similar will probably make up the bulk of your culinary enjoyment until evening, when it might be time to cook if you don't dine out. As for the main meal, on the boat, there's usually only one main meal in the form of either a late lunch or dinner. The number of these meals depends on whether you eat out or perhaps catch some fish. In Croatia, I personally prefer cooking on the boat because the food in taverns is quite expensive, with pizza being the only reasonably priced option. In Greece, I prefer dining in taverns, where prices are still reasonable almost regardless of the location. So consider how much you will eat out, how many people are on the boat, and remember that charter boats rarely have a functioning freezer, which means you won't be able to freeze fresh meat and will need to use it within first few days. Most of the meals later will be from ingredients with a longer shelf life. As a backup, you can also think about some canned food, which will be a mainstay on longer sails. If you are not on the boat for a long time and don't live on the boat, dietary menus probably won't be an option. However, you will be very active on boat and your calorie consumption will definitely be higher than usual. So no real worries about weight gain. What else do we need? You definitely need clothing. If you're a fisherman, bring your fish gear and don't forget necessary fishing permits and tickets if you're visiting national or nature parks. In Croatia, national parks requires a fee. For example, a 3-day ticket for a 45-foot boat at Lastovo costs 35 euros and does not include any mooring fees. Clothing. Around May 1st, it can be as warm as summer or as cold as winter. The sea acts as a condenser, it cools in the spring. Even though the temperature does not drop below 10 degrees,
ni neke sparine, a ne?
The wind can make it feel much colder. In windy conditions, you might need full winter clothing, and if it rains, proper sailing gear is crucial. However, most of the crew can hide inside the boat, so only the skipper might need the sailing outfit, and even then only occasionally. The goal is to enjoy sailing and nature, not to challenge bad weather conditions. If the weather turns bad, we find shelter in a safe bay, so bring variety of clothes. As you will see, we even tried some April swimming, and it was bearable. A headlamp can also come in handy, if not for anything else, for exploring underground ammunition storage facilities. First day. Trugir Stiniva on Hvar. We set sail in the early afternoon and sailed without much wind, using both sails and the engine. We aimed to either anchor on our own or find a free pier to avoid the expensive mooring fees in most bays. We checked out a particular bay with a small pier. On maps it's marked as too shallow, but if you know it, here is a space for one boat. If you're lucky, it's available, and the pier was waiting just for us. The bay is well protected from all directions except the north, but since there's a wall on one side of the pier, you are still quite safe. As we will see, we'll tied up here again on the last night and endured a severe storm with the Tramontana north wind reaching over 30 knots. Second day. Stiniva, Lastovo, Jurjeva luka.
Tako da zdaj se pa počasi pripravljamo, da bomo odpluli v smeri Lastova, tako da se zdaj poudarke pripravljamo, a ne? No. Tako da evo, zdaj pa še Nataša.
Ja.
We started early around 7 a.m. Coffee was made beforehand, but breakfast was prepared already during the sail. The calm sea and lack of waves made this possible, and our gimbal stove served us well. Passing by Hvar, there wasn't much traffic, but the longest leg on our journey was still ahead. My son Max, the designated fisherman, knows that fish are usually caught in the shallower passages, possibly followed by a big ferry. The wind will always start blowing right on the moment, of course on full sails. This time was no different. But with our accumulated experience, the fishing action was more streamlined. Fish quickly caught and prepared for evening consumption. We continued sailing, saw some interesting sights, a dolphin, a swordfish, an island that looked like a half-sunken ship, and we even delivered a fishing tub and a large buoy, which we found afloat, to the pier in Jurjeva luka. After nearly 8 hours of sailing, we passed through the channel between Mrčara and Prežba Island near Lastovo, explored some old military facilities. We then docked at Jurjeva luka. Although a sign indicated that mooring was not allowed, the park rangers who came to check our tickets had no issue with our location, so it became our home for next 2 nights. With the sun hitting the stern, we tested the cooling ability of the sea, which was quite warm with 21 degrees in the shallow bay of Jurjeva luka.
Mi smo zdaj na Lastovem. Klemen, kako se tebi zdi Lastovo?
Moram reči, da je kar odlično. Morje je miren, jezero. Pir je mrzel, družba je super. Riba je tudi ujeta.
Jaz sem imela pa o Lastovem drugačno mnenje, ker sem mislila, da so gor kafiči, voda je pa čudovita. Voda je super, 20 stopinj, perfekt. Dobro smo se sparkirali, in smo v zavetrju.
V glavnem res je fajn klele. Jutri bomo še kle, to je klele, a ne?
In the evening, we tasted our catch, which we paired with some good drinks. Third day, Jurjeva Luka. Exploring the surroundings. The third day of our sailing trip was more relaxed. Our plan for the day was to visit Jurjev Vrh, a lookout point with a former military observation post, and to explore the surroundings, perhaps find a cold draft beer along the way. We followed through with our plan, enjoying the scenic views and the leisurely day.
Ej, original, JNA čizma. Klej pa ta prava stvar.
We also explored the big underground ammunition depot, which entrance was only a few meters away from our boat.
Klej en hodnik, klej en drug hodnik, klej pa je ena soba. Videla kaj? Ojo, vse res legal. To so, kaj so to kubilce? Aja, lej, kakšna dvoranca. Lej, kar gumazijo.
Fourth day, Lastovo and Vis. We used the day to sail to Vis. It's not the closest destination, requiring several hours of sailing, but time passes quickly while chatting, observing the sea, watching other boats and playing with video gadgets. After a day of rest, we were slightly impatient and eager to sail again. Our chosen route led us almost directly to the bay and hidden beach of Stinua, on the southeast side of Vis Island. There are 3 buoys available for short-term mooring, and you can take a dinghy to the shore. Anchoring in the relatively deep bay wouldn't be the best choice for us, especially since boats in Croatia typically come with limited chain length. We continued towards the Green Cave, Zelena Špilja, just a stone throw away, with a similar setup. Buoys were available, surprisingly again free of charge, perhaps because it wasn't a peak season yet, and we used the dinghy to enter the cave. In the afternoon, we were pleasantly surprised by the wind, allowing us to sail without the motor to the vicinity of town Vis, where we moored at the dock in the Kut area. we paid an astronomical mooring fee, albeit with electricity and water, but with a completely cold shower, costing us 93 euros per night. However, we were very close to a pizzeria, and a peaceful and worry-free night awaited us despite a very poor weather forecast for the next day. Fifth day, Vis. We stayed moored for the entire next day. We took the opportunity to explore the town of Vis, chat with other sailors who were also waiting out for the weather. The quay had filled up completely already on the previous evening. I can't imagine how it must be during peak season, waiting in line for a mooring spot.
No, evo, takole pa zgleda jugo v mestu Vis.
Sixth day, Vis, Biševo and back to Stinova on Hvar. The stormy wind subsided overnight, leaving us with some waves and enough wind up to 20 knots for an exceptional day of sailing. We first headed towards Biševo, hoping to visit the most famous natural attraction in this area, Modra Špilja or the Blue Cave. After a few hours of swift sailing, a rubber dinghy from Mezoporad port approached us and kindly informed us that the cave was closed for the day due to the conditions. The cave is opened towards the south and the waves from the previous day's storm hadn't subsided yet. We'll come back another time, maybe even this year. Till now we were sailing quite sharply into the wind. After the return we enjoyed a more comfortable sail with the wind behind us for the rest of the day. The wind direction shifted favorably during the day, so we didn't have to do much with the sails. However, it wasn't the most comfortable sail since the wind was no longer blowing from behind. With winds up to 20 knots, we reefed the sails a bit, reducing the heeling without significantly affecting our speed, which didn't drop below 6 knots whole day. Elan boats are known for their speed, of course, made by my countrymen. Given our connection with the name Stinova this week, we decided to check if the pier was available again. With the wind forecasted to change to Bora, a cold northeasterly wind overnight, I didn't want to anchor with just 45 meters of chain. It turned out to be an excellent decision. The pier at Stinova was empty again. Around 1 a.m., the wind shift occurred, but it wasn't just a shift, it was an unexpected storm. The boat was moving quite a bit by the pier, so I put sailing gear, headlamp, and checked all the ropes and fenders. I wasn't confident about one rope, so my son and I added another one in case of the first one failed. After securing everything in the strongest wind and rain, we checked the instruments, which showed winds over 30 knots directly from the north. Next time, I'll push the boat a bit further behind the pier to better shelter it. Despite feeling the waves at the bow, I managed to sleep peacefully. Seventh day, Stinova on Hvar, Šolta, Trogir. We woke up to an exceptionally calm morning, showing no signs of the previous night's weather turmoil. A westerly wind of up to 20 knots was forecasted, which would allow us to sail practically all the way to Trogir. And so we did. We sailed the entire day, using the engine only for anchoring maneuvers on Šolta. We also prudently turned the engine on while passing through the Splitska Vrata Strait due to approaching vessels from multiple directions. Although none has the right of way over us, it's wise to assume that most charter sailors might not be well versed in the cool regs, so caution is the key. The final stretch in the bay before Trogir was simply magnificent, with the wind from the stern, slightly from the side, more than Broadreach, blowing at 20 knots. We felt nothing but pure sailing bliss. Ideal conditions. I can hardly wait for our next sailing trip in Greece, where we'll be sailing from Athens to Milos, hopefully in similar conditions with the Meltemi wind on our back. Upon arriving at the harbor, we experienced a boarding by a representative of the charter company who took over the boat and, with a racing maneuver, managed to refuel and dock it at the home marina within only a few minutes. Us alone, it would have definitely taken at least 5 times as long to do the same. Costs. I promised to provide some details of the costs. There were 5 of us traveling with 2 cars for approximately 500 kilometers, covering fuel and tolls for both vehicles. We rented a Lan 45 Impression built in 2016. It's a wonderful boat, sails well, better than Bavaria and at least as good as Beneteau. We ate out twice, once in Vis and once in Trogir, having pizza and beer on both occasions. So, including fuel for the sailboat, around 60 liters, 2 mooring fees, Vis twice 93 euros, and all the other expenses, the total cost per person was exactly 590 euros. Conclusion. Croatia is superb, with stunning natural beauty, but it can get crowded even in May. It's conveniently close and easily accessible by car for all of Central Europe. However, the prices are a drawback. In summary, visit Croatia in the off-season, a research base without fees, and ensure you get a boat with enough chain. Croatia can be budget-friendly, but it requires some knowledge and experience. Will we go again? Definitely. We already have plans for November, and we might take another trip even sooner. But first, Greece. Whee! Top of the form. Okay, that's it.